Okay, so arcs and sectors, we're just going to be looking at a bunch of different examples, including a non-calculator one at the very end. So to start off with, whenever I see an arc sectors question, I really recommend using a highlighter, highlight the key information. So we are being asked to find the area, we're given the angle, and we have our radius here. So I then write out my formula of x over 360 equals length over pi d equals area over pi r squared. And nowhere in any of my highlighted bit of information does it ever mention length, so I score it out because I'm not going to be using it. So I then substitute what I do know, so I've got that 52 degrees over 360. Don't know the area, so that stays as a, and that's going over pi times 8 squared. So here's a little trick to help us rearrange. A is the thing I want, so I have a equals. I multiply across the diagonal, so it's going to be 52 times pi times 8 squared, and it is all over the thing on the bottom. And I do recommend drawing these lines because, as you can see, at no point do any of my green parts ever touch. So all the bits that I circle on the lines, it helps be a guide of I've already done stuff with that thing. And especially when it says multiply across the diagonal, because I have previously put this circle around the A, this is my only diagonal option. Okay, so next one then. Oh, I didn't actually put it in the calculator. Let's do that again. So, when you put it in the calculator, it should come out as 29.04227 and so forth. If you're not confident rounding, just write the whole thing out that's in your calculator. You won't get marked down unless it states that you must round it to something. And if it doesn't state and you do want to round it, I always recommend 2 decimal places. That's always a safe bet. So rounding it to 2 decimal places would be 0.4 at the end there. Okay, now on to the second question. So highlighting my key information is telling you to find the arc length. You're given this angle in the middle and we have a radius here. So writing out my equation, so if x over 360 equals length over pi d equals area over pi r squared. Nowhere in there does it ever mention area, so I score that off. Then I substitute the values I do know, so I've got 220 degrees over 360 equals the length over pi times. Now remember, this bit here is your radius, so to find your diameter you do need to times it by 2. Make sure you do not forget that. So times 26. So then my length is going to equal, because that's my length, so I've got my L, multiply across the diagonal, so I've got 220 times pi times 26, all over this last bit at the bottom here. When you put that in your calculator, you should get 49.91641 and so forth. Round it to 2 decimal places would be 49.92 degrees. Okay, next one. So it is asking you to find the angle. We have here our arc length and a radius. So writing out my formula, I've got x over 360 equals length over pi d equals area over pi r squared. So nowhere in there does it ever have any sign of an area, so I'm going to score that out. So I don't know what x is. My length is at 34. And my diameter is going to be 52, because remember, you've got to multiply this radius here by 2. So then rearranging, x is the thing I want. I multiply across the diagonal. And then I divide by everything that's on the bottom here. And when you stick that in the calculator, it should come out as 74.9255 and so forth, or 74.93 degrees. Okay, last one. I'm just very quickly, I remember I changed this in my notes. So, last one. This is actually a non-calculator one, and normally it would also state use pi equals 3.14. So the information we have, it is telling us to find the arc length. It's given us an angle and a radius. So I just start it off same way I have been doing. So I write my whole formula out. X over 360 equals length over pi d equals area over pi r squared. Nowhere in there does it ever mention area, so I score that off. And I substitute what I do know. So I've got 150 over 360 equals length over pi times 40. Because remember, my radius is 20, so I double it to give me a diameter of 40. L was the thing I want. I multiply across the diagonal. And actually, before I continue, I'm going to quickly change that pi into 3.14. And then it's all over the last bit at the bottom. So the first thing I want to do, I want to look to see if I can get rid of this decimal. And generally, you should be given numbers that will work. So if I just look at first my 150 and my 40, I can actually split those up a bit. So instead of 150, I could have 15 times 10. And instead of that 40, I could have 4 times 10. And if you think about it, if I've got, I'm just going to have this at the side over here. If I have 3.14 times 10 times 10, realistically what I'm doing is doing 3.14 times 100. When I times it by 100, all the numbers are going to be shifting, but easiest way to visualize it is with our decimal point moving. Because there's 2 zeros, it moves twice, so it goes 1, 2. So that means my answer is just going to be 314. So there should be somewhere within these non-calculator ones a chance to get it out the decimal. So you got to try and look to see where you can create times 100 somewhere. So what I've actually got is 15 times 314 times 4 all over 360. Now at this point you could start multiplying all the tops, but it's actually far easier for you to start simplifying the whole thing down. So first, I'm just going to look at this times 4 and that 360. Well, I know 4 certainly fits into 36, so therefore it must fit into 360. And if I divide the top by 4 and the bottom by 4, essentially at the top, all it's going to do is just get rid of that 4. I'll just squeeze it down here. So I've got 15 times 314. And then on the bottom, 360 divided by 4 is 90. And then I want to try and simplify it a little more. So I know certainly 3 fits into 15. 3 fits into 9, so 3 must fit into 90. So I'm actually going to now divide the top and the bottom by 3. But make sure when you're dividing the top part, you're only dividing one of the numbers by the things out here. So this time I'm going to be doing that 15 divided by 3. So I'm now actually going to have, let's just go up here. I'm now actually going to have 5 times 314 all over 30. At this point, what I might see is that, well, that's an even number, that's an even number, so I can divide them both by 2. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to divide them both by 2. So I've got 5 times 314 divided by 2 would be 157. And that all goes over 15. Well, now I can see I've got a 5 and I've got this 15 here, so I can divide them both by 5. So I've now got 157 over 3. And I can't simplify it any further. Now, this whole section is only worth 1 mark. My advice in the exam is go through the rest of the paper first, and if you have the time, then come back, see if you can simplify it. But you're a lot better spending your time elsewhere on questions where you can pick up more marks. So I would just focus on these first 2 steps, because these are 2 marks out of the exam, those 2 little bits. And it is important making sure you are being as efficient as possible with your time to get yourself the most marks within the exam. But I hope that's helped a bit. Let me know if there are any issues or queries.